G'day divers and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Sea Lion L12 by LetonPower. All about this torch, what my thoughts are, whether I like it, would I buy it again. Now I'm not sponsored by LetonPower, they did not provide me with this light. This is my light, I paid full price for it, purchased it online. So this is my thoughts purely on this light and why I think it's worth probably spending the little bit extra money it costs to buy a LetonPower over say buying a generic light off eBay. These things this one's probably called a QH24 generally, or there's the QH18. These things have been around for many years. They all come out of China and they're cheap, but they also have a problem of being quite unreliable. So the reason I picked up this LetonPower was I've been trying to find a light that's just a little bit better, a little bit higher quality without it being a crazy amount of money when you're using it for your more economical cameras like action cameras and mobile phones. The problem with say your more generic lights like your L24s or your QH24s and your QH18s is the generic sort of name for them on eBay and Amazon, is although they can work quite well, the problem is consistency. So I've found over the years, and I've been using these for a long time, and I tend to just buy lights all the time, so I have owned loads and loads of different types, is consistency is a problem. I would say at best 80% survive the initial dive. So 2 out of 10 of these lights when you buy them online will die the first dive or two. If they survive the first dive or two, they'll tend to survive for quite a while. The next problem you've got is consistency. So if you're going to buy these lights and you're going to want 2 lights, buy them from the same supplier and buy 2 at a time, because there isn't a lot of consistency in their quality and that generally affects the light. So if you buy 2 at a time, you have a much better chance that the light's going to match, because there is nothing worse than 2 lights where the white balance is slightly different or the temperature is slightly different on each light, or the power is slightly different, because you can just pick it up constantly and it pretty much gets rid of any benefit of having 2 lights, because the only way of getting around it is going to be to put both the lights together and put them over the top of each other so you don't have that distinctive line, at which point you've got a little bit of an advantage over a single light, but not much. You want to be able to have your lights wider out and get that nice mix of light where you can't see where one light starts and the other one finishes, and that can be a little bit difficult purchasing these, and I've never found a supplier I would recommend to you. If you want to buy them, go onto eBay, Alibaba, whatever, and you need to choose which supplier you're satisfied with and take that risk of buying them, but they are cheap. You will get these sorts of lights around the 85 to 150 Australian dollar mark, depending on whether they come with batteries and how much risk you're willing to take, and whether you want to buy them obviously in Australia for quick access or you're going to buy them from overseas and it takes 4 weeks for you to get them. The nice thing about these LetonPowers that I've found is it's a similar design for most of it, but it is a lot better quality. Now, I haven't bought enough of them to have a problem, but I certainly haven't had a problem with this light, and I'm not expecting to. It's just a little bit better and worth a little bit more money. They make a similar light to this one. I think they call it a B15, and it sits around the $140 mark, I'd say, in Australia, maybe a little bit less. It was $90 US, I think, online, and I'd be buying it over this every day of the week. The quality between them, substantial. There is definitely a quality difference, and you've got a company to go back to. You've actually got LetonPower to talk to, rather than just, I've never actually found out who actually makes these lights. They come out of loads of different factories in China, and they all seem to come in the same generic box, same fairly generic design, but who actually makes them, who knows? You've just got hundreds of different suppliers, whereas these you can actually go to LetonPower and speak to them. And they have some nice little features, like just little things above your generic eBay light. One, get the cob light if you can. The cob light is a little bit dearer, but it will give you a better light for video. If you're doing cave diving, you're going to get more out of something more like their B15 or this QH24, just because it's a cooler light. It will punch a little bit further. But the problem with the cooler light when it comes to video, you want a slightly warmer light generally when you're taking video. This light is actually more powerful than that light. It definitely is. But above water, underwater, the coolness compared to the warmness sort of equals out a little bit. The CRI is definitely better with this cob light. There's no doubt that this produces a much better color than the QH24 does. So I do like this cob light. Don't believe the advertising for any of them. I've seen these things advertised as being 50,000 lumens on eBay. It's not 50,000 lumens. If I'm going to take a guess, 5 or 6,000. Don't quote me on it, but it sure isn't above that. It's like every year they just add the number to make it sound better because it sucks people in. These are advertised by LetonPower as 8,000. Yeah, okay. I mean, they're brighter than those. I'll give it to that. I don't get too hung up in it. I would say that, you know, all these lights around this size are between that 5 and 8,000 lumens, which is perfectly fine. You really don't need a stronger light than that, especially not when you're using an action camera or a GoPro. And really, to get lights brighter than that, you need to spend a lot of money. The rest of them are lying to you. It is very easy to spend a lot of money. If you want a really top of the range underwater video light, you'll be paying 2,500 Australian dollars per light. So when you're talking about paying $100, you know, you're still going to get what you pay for, but it's amazing what you can get out of these lights. What I think you can do is it's well worth spending the extra money for this. And then if you want a little bit better than this, the best good quality light that I would recommend is Divoke's SL50, because their SL50 is still an amazingly economical price for a light that gives you 9 power levels. So some of the things I do like about the step up from this to this light, from the cheaper lights, is it's not much more. It's maybe 20% more than buying these cheaper lights, 30% at best, and you get a lot of nice features. First of all, this came in this beautiful hard case. The others come in a box and with nothing with it. This came with this beautiful built-in case that's branded. Not only that, is the case is actually molded for the light. It's not just a generic case. It's actually designed for the light. It's got a little clip to hold it in. Beautiful for transport, beautiful for looking after the light. And I wasn't expecting that at all. I did not expect that. It also came with straps, a little manual, extra O-rings, everything. It is really nicely done. It's really good quality. So that alone, just that case is worth the difference in price between the eBay lights and the LetonPower. Then when you get to the light itself, apart from having the name brand on it and the red, and it just looks a bit nicer, it has little things like, it has little symbols to tell you which one of these buttons is the white light and which one is the red and blue light. Now, I've been using these lights for years and years and years, and I still constantly switch the wrong light on. It is so nice to be able to glance over and know that I'm pressing the right button. They're still the same thing. You'll have 3 settings for white and red and blue on the left. The white lights, 3 settings. Bit of a shame. I wish I had more settings, but all the lower lights have that. Again, check out the SL50 by Divoke if you're interested. They have 9 settings. They are, twice the price of one of these, but I do have an affiliate link if you're interested. That'll be in the description. You get 6% off them. Up to you. If you're just getting into videography and photography and you're pretty certain that you're going to upgrade to a better camera than just a GoPro, then I would seriously consider spending the money on those lights. If you're using a mobile phone, it's probably worth it too, just for the picture quality. Then if you don't want to spend the money, I would be looking at something more reliable than your eBay lights, like these Leton lights, because they're not a lot more. So the next thing I like is it has a mark where it says power off on the back, because the back is where the batteries go in. Now, one thing you'll find with all these cheaper lights is that if you put the batteries in and you seal it up, you've got 2 problems. One, it will actually drain the batteries over time, so don't do it until you're sort of ready to go diving. And I sort of, with these other lights, the QH24s, I would do the similar thing. Like, I just unscrew them just a little bit, so you couldn't switch it on. But this gives you a definite spot to turn to stop that from happening. The other problem is if you leave them so they can switch on and you tap one of them on, underwater video lights are not designed to be used above water. They get very hot very quickly and they can burn out. Apart from flatten your batteries before you dive, you'll probably find it'll ruin your light fairly quickly. So you do not want them to be able to switch on. So if you're using the QH24s and the 18s, I would just do it until you just couldn't switch it on. Whereas with this LetonPower light, you've actually got a mark that tells you that it is off, and then you can just twist it a little bit more to switch it on before the dive. I like that feature. The other feature I love in this light is where the batteries go. So with your QH24s and your standard eBay lights, the light comes apart like so. You put 4 18650s in here and then it screws up. Now, I have no problem with the 18650s. The one saving you're going to find with the LetonPower, or this model LetonPower, is it takes 3 21700s. They cost about the same. So you're going to have 8 batteries for 2 lights, which is then probably 16. I'd even go as far as having 24 batteries when I go on a trip for 2 of these lights. Whereas, you know, it doesn't seem like much, but 6, 12, 18, it's a few different batteries. And they cost about the same, so it's going to save you some money there and nearly make some of the difference up. The other thing is, the one thing I find long term that actually kills you with these cheap eBay lights is because the springs are loaded in there and you've got to push the housing down onto the light, is you end up, eventually what happens is it'll wear out with the batteries rotate around on this connector. That'll get worn out and that'll stop your light from working. Or the other thing is they're aluminium, obviously, which they should be, but because you've got to press against it against that spring loading, I tend to find, maybe it's just me, eventually I'll end up slightly cross-threading it one day, and then that starts to cause a problem, and the cross-threading becomes worse and worse and worse, and that's normally what ends me buying new lights, is because I've ended up with a horrible thread and it's cross-threaded. This system, however, there is no pressure. So you've dropped the 3 18650, or these are 21700, sorry, in a casing that is also a charger, which is great. I just love how the fact that it's an inbuilt charger. They give you the cable to plug it. You can charge your batteries in this. That just slides down in, and you've got 2 O-rings there. You've got a 3rd O-ring in the end cap, and there's no pressure on it. So it's just an easy light turn. You're not going to misthread the back of that, which is one reason I think these lights will last a lot longer. So you've got the extra functionality of having that inbuilt battery pack. You've got the added advantage of having 3 larger batteries, which will give you more power, and it's easier to manage, less cost when you need multiple batteries. You've got the beautiful little marks that show you which is the white light, which is the colored light. You've got the off switch. You've got a much better quality, and it comes in this beautiful little carry case, and you're paying maybe 20-30% more. Definitely worth having a look at LetonPower. Check out their website, and I'm going to keep using them. I haven't used them a lot underwater. I've used them for quite a few dives now, and I've had absolutely no problems, but we've had not the best conditions, so I don't have a lot of footage with them, and I would like to do some more footage with them so I can show you it. So I hope that video helped. If you've had LetonPower lights and you've got anything positive or negative to say, leave it in the comments. Like I said, I've bought one of them, so, well, I've got 2 of them, but I've purchased them once, had no problems with them, and liked those little features for the tiny little bit of extra cost over your generic eBay lights. I will be making a video shortly, once I have a bit more footage, probably covering real basic lights right through the LetonPower, through the Divoke lights, right up to the top of the range lights, and why and where you want to sit. Lights are a little bit like, and cameras are like cars. You know, one person wants to spend $250,000 on a car, one person wants to spend $2,500 on a car. At the end of the day, they both get you to work. It depends on what you're satisfied with, but I'll try and give you a range and what they do and how much they cost, and give you my ideas on thoughts on where you should head depending on which camera you're using. Because obviously, if you're using action cameras and mobile phones, justifying spending thousands of dollars on lights worth way more than the camera doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you have a $50,000 camera setup, spending $10,000, which is very easy by the way, on 2 lights, it makes sense to a point. But spending $10,000 on 2 lights to put on a $300 camera doesn't make sense. So it's just finding that fine line and realizing that light-wise there isn't a whole heap of difference. We're not talking way better. We're talking small increments, just like with your cameras. So until the next time, keep blowing bubbles, and don't forget, the deeper you go, the further you get away from all those idiots.